Evidently, lockdown-loving, rights-crushing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau likes to act before many people can consider exactly what he's doing. And many collectivists are just fine with that, especially if it claims more power for the state. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. You know, like he did on February 15th, executing his day-old invocation of the so-called Emergencies Act before the actual required legal process of parliamentary and Senate votes even began, and similar to how he and his finance minister / deputy prime / World Economic Forum board member Chrystia Freeland started freezing bank accounts belonging to people involved with or supporting the Freedom Convoy before any of the targets were even afforded an accusation of criminal activity, let alone a trial. Like all that, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has changed course, unilaterally claiming he is both ending the Emergency Act invocation and unfreezing those bank accounts. And we have to remember that he had actually offered banks legal immunity if they did so of their own accord. This is all happening before the Senate could actually reach their final vote, and all circumventing not only the process for the Emergencies Act, but the 1960s established Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, a process and a document that I explained in great detail for MRC-TV shortly after he invoked the act on the 14th. Many people speculate that Trudeau pivoted because of the backlash and the fact that the Senate appeared ready to not approve initiation of the Emergencies Act. Again, if you want more details, please refer to my earlier piece on the 15th to see how that power grab act itself, that Emergencies Act, actually breaches key portions of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. If you want the info, it's in there. I did heavy research on it. But, you know, I have to say Trudeau had already usurped the power. So let's look at that. Whether he decides to stop stomping on rights is actually beside the point. He has set a dark precedent that crushed dissent, attacked journalists, trampled an innocent woman beneath an enormous police horse, and saw a deeper lockdown of Ottawa businesses that he unbelievably claimed he was saving by imposing lockdowns and mandates on them and their supply chain connections for almost 2 years. The Daily Mail's Natasha Anderson reported February 24th that simultaneous to Trudeau's reversal on the Emergencies Act crackdown, he reversed his attack on innocent people's bank accounts. Not because it was extrajudicial and penalized people who hadn't even been accused of a crime, let alone stood in front of a jury for a trial, but because in his eyes, he, the great leader, had gotten the emergency that, of course, he proclaimed as such and defined as such, that he had gotten it under control. Quote, Canada has ordered banks to unlock accounts belonging to people who participated in or supported the weeks-long Freedom Convoy protest that saw nearly 200 arrests and brutal force response from police. End quote. I think this opens fruitful avenues of exploration. For example, what happened to some of the innocent people Trudeau shut out of 206 bank accounts and 253 crypto accounts merely because they supported a protest? A protest that actually saw a decrease in Ottawa's violent crime and property crime rate, saw protesters cleaning the streets and feeding the homeless, and saw protesters supporting each other and local Ottawa businesses. They didn't destroy them a la BLM or Antifa. One of those innocents was a lady who donated just $50 Canadian. Quote, among those targeted was a single mom on a minimum wage job who donated just $50, according to one local conservative MP, sparking outrage over what critics of Trudeau claimed was authoritarian behavior. End quote. The claim of authoritarian behavior is not merely a claim. The definition of authoritarian was achieved the moment Trudeau breached the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Actually, it was breached the moment the government established itself, because they claim to be the authorities. And the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which assures the right to private commerce, as well as travel between provinces, and the rights to peaceful assembly, to engage in journalism, and to speak without government suppression, well, that is supposed to protect the people from that government. And Trudeau actually increased his authoritarianism by unilaterally acting on the Emergencies Act before even that authoritarian power document had passed through the legal, parliamentary, and Senate process. And even if the Emergencies Act had passed both houses, as I explained in my earlier MRC-TV piece on the act and other legalities, any Emergencies Act moves the Prime Minister might attempt would have to be approved and set into motion by a body called the Governor in Council. By definition, acting outside this process is authoritarian. And though many in the Canadian and US media aren't discussing Trudeau's shameful behavior, and though it's possible the Prime Minister might want people to overlook the criminality of what he's doing, including his attack on bank accounts, many freedom-minded people are noticing and spreading the information. And we're noticing how Trudeau's action is a dark harbinger for a government-created digital currency. When we can see philosopher and psychologist Jordan Peterson suggest that Canadians get their money out of the electronically connected banks, even as central bankers float proposals to create digital currencies.
I've been in contact with a reliable source within the Canadian military, and he told me today by email that if I had any sense, I'd take my money out of the Canadian banks because the situation is far worse than I've been informed.
We can see that we aren't alone in our concerns about this looming facet of central banking and government so-called regulated banking systems. Should the US switch to a digital dollar, not only will the feds invade our banking privacy, as they have been doing since Congress passed the Financial Record-Keeping and Reporting of Currency and Foreign Transactions Act of 1970, and which they ramped up even more with the passage of the Know Your Customer reporting mandate, which was included in the Patriot Act of 2001. By the way, sorry if you bet on the Fourth Amendment protecting you from the political sharks. Not only all that, the government handcuffs on bank accounts will become heavier and more pervasive if they create a digital currency. With such a currency, the agents of the state can not only create worthless money, something they already do and which always benefits the government and their crony friends at the expense of the people, they can take away money without trial. And as the Chinese government plans for its digital yuan, they can literally place expiration dates on the money they issue, prompting people to have to spend rather than save. This is precisely what former Biden nominee for the Comptroller of Currency, Saule Omarova, advocated prior to her withdrawal from consideration for the post. Of course, if one goes deeper, he or she can see that liberty is threatened by the very idea of a comptroller of the currency and banking regulations. And once everything is made electronic or electric, as numerous politicians want to do for your home heating and even your ability to travel via their wondrous replacements, the electric vehicles, they will have you in their government grid, able to shut you down at any time. Just like Trudeau began to do in ham-fisted fashion to scores of innocent people in Canada, the landscape is visible right now. we can see what they are up to. It's ugly, and freedom is not on the map. Perhaps it's time to change course. Spread the word about what is going on. I hope you will do so. Thank you so much for watching. And please tell others about the videos. You can find us at MRCTV.org. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok. And I hope you'll like and subscribe wherever you are, either YouTube or Rumble. We always suggest that people go to Rumble because they don't censor us. And of course, I'm at Gard Goldsmith on Twitter and at Gardner Goldsmith on Gab. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.